Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine, and it's classic album review time. This has zoomed to the top of the list of things to do for a couple of reasons. I put something on the community tab recently saying I was going to look at some live albums from the 70s and which one would you vote for? And Uriah Heep Live was one of them. But the reason why it's become the first one on the list for me to cover from that list is because I recently did Are These the Most Influential Bass Players of All Time? And I said that I put together that list of bass players based on the fact that if it was a band where my attention was drawn towards the bass guitarist, that's how they were chosen. And I forgot to mention Gary Thane. This is really important because the album is Uriah Heep Live 1973, January 1973 to be exact. Now, I think what I'm going to do is, because some of you will have this, many of you will have this record, but as you know, it's very important to me that imagine I'm talking to someone who wants to feel involved, who wants to know all the fuss is about, and you're not sure who this band is or what it's about. So there's a little section now where I'm going to show you this vinyl copy and what it looks like. So if you're on Discogs or eBay and you're looking for one, you'll know what it's supposed to look like. And I'll also show you the CD version as well, the 2 CD deluxe edition. So I'm going to do that now. And those of you who've already got these, you can just fast forward. So this is Uriah Heep Live, January 1973. Now, some of you might think it's a bit odd that I'm showing you this when it's been out for over 50 years. But when I do these videos now, I also think that there's going to be some fans who've never seen this before. You're just getting into the band in question and you want to know what you're looking for if you're going on Discogs or eBay. This is the original 1973 vinyl edition. It's still got its sheen from when I bought it. I was at school. In fact, I had it for Christmas, as you will hear in my story behind this album. Many of my friends bought this after the school library had a copy. It was really luxurious. You've got this, again, the laminate is really shiny. And what they did was they tried to create, and they successfully created, the idea of having the tour program in the actual record. So the idea was you sat at home in your bedroom and you played this and flicked through the tour program so you'd feel as if you were really there. David Byron there, little autographed imprints as well. Ken Hensley, Mick Box, looking very majestic. Lee Kerslake, Gary Thane, one of the finest bass players of all time. And then a picture in the middle of the band on stage. And then the releases that were available at the time, which was Very Heavy, Very Humble, Salisbury, Look at Yourself, Demons and Wizards, A Magician's Birthday. Remember, of course, that this is 1973 and Sweet Freedom hadn't come out yet. And there's lots of more live photos here. All the tracks are on the back. And the inner sleeves came with lots of reviews, and they were picked because Uriah Heep had lots of not very favourable reviews. This is a band that so much believed in themselves, they just basically printed everything. So this is one of the most famous reviews here. This group makes it, I'll have to commit suicide, this journalist said, and obviously they never did that. And the inner sleeves are basically the same for both discs, and the imprint was, of course, the bronze record label. So that's the vinyl set. I don't know how many times this has been out on CD. This is the version that I've got, which came with a little slipcase, and it's a 2 CD set with the tracks on the back. Because the original tapes are missing for all the rest of the songs they did. There were more songs in the actual gig itself, but this has a bonus disc, is the US radio show, which has things from Wonderworld on it, and also Sweet Freedom, and also the film mixes were done for radio. But the booklet even mirrors the vinyl version exactly at the start, with the same text for each member of the band. the same pictures of each member. So this replicates itself exactly what you've just seen in the vinyl. And then you've got in larger font, so you can see what was written on the inside of the inner sleeve. And then you've got a little bit of box of text there from Ken Hensley saying what he felt about this album, what he really liked it. Mick Bock talks about it as well. And then there's a bit of an overview of the album and what it means and where it sits historically in the Uriah Heep canon, written by Dave Ling. And then the actual inner sleeves are also replicated at the back. And then the actual stories behind the tracks and where they came and the remixes, etc., are written in by Robert M. Koch from July 2003 in my case. And he said here that he was hoping that there'll be yet another version, a deluxe version, but of course that hasn't happened yet. So that is Uriah Heep live 1973, and now let's get down to my story. So that was just a quick look for those of you who are new to this band or album, just to acclimatise yourself to the fact of what this record was like. So I'm going to take you back now to where we're going. We're going back to, it's going to be the end of 1973, I think, 74-ish. Now, where I went to school, which was Linden High School in Solihull, Sheldon, I suppose, more than Solihull. But anyway, they had a record library, and which is really forward-thinking, where you could go and borrow records, because records are very expensive. Double albums were about £3.25, single albums about £2.25, but we're at school. So this is pocket money. Okay, and pocket money in those days was about 40p a week. So it took a while, and there were other things to pay for. Records were expensive. So borrowing them from the record library was, was very important. It gave you a chance to listen to things that you didn't know what they were. One of the most popular records all of a sudden in my year at school was Uriah Heep live. Once someone borrowed it and said, you've got to hear it. I remember none of us could tape these things. We had tape players that played tapes, but none of us, my friends at school, could record anything unless you held a microphone in front of the little speaker. So the only way you could own a record was to actually physically buy it or borrow it from the school library. Uriah Heep live. Now, this is my entry point as well. I did borrow Look at Yourself later on. But for many of us, in my year at school, this was our first exposure to Uriah Heep. It was not our first exposure to live double albums, because we'd already got Deep Purple's Made in Japan. Led Zeppelin hadn't done anything. Black Sabbath hadn't done one. So for live hard rock, heavy rock, Uriah Heep live was the next in line. And it's a very, very interesting record because it isn't full on metal. Uriah Heep were never that. How much they influenced bands like Queen, I'd be very interested to know. But this record, it still has this luxury feel. That's another reason why a lot of my friends were interested. This was a record that came with a booklet in it, with all the pictures, with inner sleeves. If you bought this, your record collection expanded exponentially because of the way it'd been put together. But when we listened to it, bearing in mind we listened to Man in Japan, we hear Richie Blackmore and John Lord, etc. When you listen to Uriah Heep at this point and this album, Uriah Heep Live, one person really comes straight out the speakers at you, unlike any other production of anything else we'd heard. And that was Gary Thayne on the bass. Gary Thayne's bass playing is inventive, it's funky, it's jazzy, it's so beautifully, the frequencies of his bass playing and the way it sits in the soundstage, Uriah Heep Live, it gives the album, I feel, a timeless quality. I can listen to a lot of music from that period now, and it sounds quite thin, or the bass is kind of like, it's a sound within the soundscape, but you can't quite can't kind of delve in with your ears and pick out what's going on, not note by note. But on this album, and this is the same for a lot of the studio stuff with Gary Thane on, but especially this live album, you can hear every note that Gary Thane plays. And I think that also gives a different definition to the whole of the band themselves. Ken Hensley's swirling, swirl pedal drenched Hammond organ, his slide guitar playing, Mick Box's wall of sound, absolutely, and Lee Kerslake, of course, which I'm going to mention in a minute, but he's solid, Simon Kirke-esque, solid drumming is fantastic. And of course, David Byron, his voice, just dancing like an operatic seagull over the top of everything. It's just beautiful. And it starts not with a Highway Star or that kind of let rip. It starts in almost kind of like just strolling out of the wings of the thing. The lights go down and the band just walk on and go, the roadie says, "Welcome, England's own Uriah Heep," and we're into Sunrise, which is that kind of really, it's not a ballad, but it's a stop-start, almost Bad Company-ish kind of hard rock song, but with swirling Hammond, which takes it away from my phrase of saying Bad Company-ish, because it's like a wall of sound. There's melody. It's royal. It is like Queen in some ways. And then we follow into Sweet Lorraine and Traveller in Time, which is a great rock song, and of course Easy Living. Those opening tracks on side one, the bubbling bass, the driving guitars, because Mick Box was lead guitar, but he was quite happy to sit back and come forward every so often. But he was a wall of sound of guitar chords and the swirling sound of the Hammond organ. Ken Hensley was a very different player to someone like John Lord, because he was also a guitarist. He was also a vocalist. He wrote a lot of the music. Those four opening tracks of side one of the vinyl set the tone, set the pace, but the best was yet to come. And it was all about to start when you flipped the disc over, back then, and even now if you're hearing this for the first time. July Morning, Uriah Heep's Child in Time. There's no screaming in it, but there's something about the structure of the song that kind of has brought the two together. But July Morning is a song all on its own. It doesn't have, again, it's not a song that has a solo like Child in Time. But what it has is that hypnotic quality. It has a riff that repeats itself. That's so it's an earworm that once it's inside your head, it will never come out. It will come out at times when you're in the queue at Tesco's or waiting for the lights to change to green or something. It's got an almost spiritual aspect to it. July Morning. It's a beautiful lyric. The words are timeless, and the uplifting nature of the chord sequence and how we move into that hypnotic riff. And this is a track that takes up a huge chunk of side two. It's just epic. It's progressive rock. It's an extended piece of timeless music. It's the perfect marriage of Hammond organ, guitars, bass and drums, and Gary Thane again. He just knits those lines in amongst these instruments and just brings it all together to really help create what is as known as the classic Uriah Heep sound. Tears in My Eyes is a slide guitar tour de force, really, with Ken Hensley and Mick Box. And it's a really hard riff, lots of guitar playing, lots of really taking the slide over the pickups of the guitar in places. But it's a great rock song. It was a great rock song on Look at Yourself. But here, it really is. This is definitive version. But the best is yet to come. Because, for me personally, the side of the vinyl and the two tracks that I play the most, and always have done ever since I first heard this, are parked on side three. Uriah Heep's most famous song, there, Smoke on the Water, and I say that only because of the riff. The riff from Very, Very, Very Humble. The song is, of course, Gypsy, but this side 3 is Gypsy, 14 minutes of it, and then Circle of Hands. These 2 tracks, the way they're sequenced here and the performance of them, the presentation of them, is everything you need to know about why Uriah Heep are so well known, famous, still playing to this day in 2024. Just announced that they're going to start to wind down. But this side 3 conjures up everything that made Uriah Heep fantastic. But Phil, you've just said that Gypsy, which was a short track, is 14 minutes long. Surely that means it's overblown and a little bit kind of self-indulgent. No. The riff to Gypsy is, as one person said in the reviews, they would commit suicide if this band ever made it. I think that it was this track that did it to them. It's a powerful, mechanical riff. It's an incredible. It's one of the best guitar riffs of all time, and it's also obviously played with Hammond. These 2 things: guitar, Hammond organ, distortion. It's not a fast track. It's a steady, thumping, 4/4 rhythm. Great rock song. This is a showcase of not only David Barham's kind of thematic. Cinematic rather vocals about a story. It's not too deep. You can relate to it, and his voice is fantastic. And then we move into, as David calls it, the Moog Synthesizer, as we go into the synthesizer extravaganza with Ken Hensley using all the special effects and all his keyboards around him into an absolutely incredible instrumental section, which takes you on a journey. And as you start to listen to this, as it pulls back, it goes forwards, you're aware of Lee Kerslake and Gary Thane just locking together in this absolutely incredible, powerful piece of music. And when we get Mick Box come in at the end of this particular section, it's just mind-blowing to me. And this track features my favourite ever drum solo. Yes, it has a drum solo in it. I still listen to The Mule from Man in Japan. I don't really listen to any other drum solos. I usually run out of the room or to get the remote control or something to get rid of it. But this drum solo is one of those drum solos where you can kind of you can literally tap your chest or tap the table and you can go in time with it. It's why I said although he's a very intricate drummer, Lee Kerslake was, there was also to me an element of Simon Kirk in what he did. He was a very rhythmic, obviously he's rhythmic, he's a drummer, but one very musical drummer. And this drum solo is musical. You can almost hum it. You can almost follow it as the patterns get faster. They don't get too fast, so it just becomes a blur. It's so well constructed, and the way we've come flying out of there into the climax of this song, Gypsy, is just incredible. And the production here, Jerry Brun, the way this has been put together, it's incredible. But it doesn't end there, because we now move into, I wonder if this is this my favourite Uriah Heep song? I was going to say The Wizard off Demons and Wizards, but no, because I'm doing this, I think we have to land. This is, of all the tracks on this album, Circle of Hands is the one that me and my friends played the most. So we're now on the side that we played the most and the track that we played the most, Circle of Hands, which is off Demons and Wizards. But this live version is like nothing else. Today is only yesterday's tomorrow is the famous lyrical line. And it starts with this swirling organ, and it's a slow track. It's not a ballad, it's a powerful rock song. But what happens in this version is, as we move towards the climax of it, it gets faster and faster, but not faster and faster. It speeds up. It's not like the whole thing becomes heavier, and the drum beats begin to double up, and the pace doubles up. But so it doesn't get faster as a song, but the power and the delivery of it. And this is one of the definitive moments of Gary Thane's bass playing, because this is one of these areas where obviously there's a wall of guitar going on in it, and there's a wall of swelling of organ. But it's actually Gary Thane's bass becomes almost the lead instrument as we gallop towards the end. And we gallop, and Lee Kerslake locks in with Gary Thane, and it is so exciting. It is so exciting. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it. And I guess, at the time, borrowing it from school. Oh, before we move on to side 4, this is quite funny. We all asked for it for Christmas. We all asked Father Christmas if he'd buy it for us. Okay, we're all very young, like 14. Yeah, okay. We might not have believed Father Christmas. We all asked our parents to go and get this, and the band's called Uriah Heep. Okay, obviously named after the Charles Dickens character. My friend's mom was determined to go and get all the Christmas presents as early as possible. So she went to Boots the Chemist. Boots the Chemist sold records, in case you're thinking, what? They hadn't got it. Then she went to Smith's, and she asked for it again. But the way she asked for it was probably why Boots said they hadn't got it. She asked, have you got an album by Uriah Heep? And they said, no, we don't have anything by Uriah Heep at all. And she said, I don't understand it. My son's asked for it, and all his friends have asked for it. And apparently their moms have found it. We don't have anything by Uriah Heep, but we do have something by Uriah Heep. An easy mistake to make? Well, there you go. But eventually, Wes did get a copy of it, and we all did. That Christmas, all of us, we all got copies of Uriah Heep live from January 1973. So, back to where we were. Side 4. Now, side 4 is different in how it's perceived now to how it was perceived then. It starts with Look at Yourself, great thunderous track. There's something about it that kind of, I always felt that the track probably could have been a bit, I don't know, livelier, heavier, considering it's such an important track. Magician's Birthday is an interlude. Love Machine is a great track, fantastic riff from Look at Yourself. And then we're into the rock and roll medley. Now I'm going to come forward to where we are now. A lot of people now listen to the rock and roll medley and they find it really twee. And in fact, a lot of people don't like it. And it's seen as being the weak spot of the album. It's, we've got Royal Over Beethoven, Blue Suede Shoes, Mean Woman Blues, Hound Dog, At the Hop, whole lot of shaking going on, and then Blue Suede Shoes again. At the time, this was one of the highlights of the whole record. Go back to the 1970s and think about when bands did cover versions. Now bands do cover versions, and they do cover versions of classic rock tracks. When bands did cover versions back then, they did rock and roll classics, Johnny B. Good, Hendrix, etc. So bands doing rock and roll songs for their encore was very, very normal. But what makes this so amazing is this again is where all the lights fall on Gary Thane. Because there are times when all we have here is the Queen-esque backing vocals of the harmonies of Uriah Heep. Each member of this band could sing in so many different levels in the harmonies. And basically there's the drums, and there's Gary Thane having the freedom to take his bass guitar wherever he wants to go, playing funky, playing rock. He's just there. And you listen to his bass lines and how he moves and how Lee Kerslake follows him as we move towards the climax of going back into Blue Suede Shoes when Mick Box just turns his guitar up to stun and everyone heads towards the finish. It is amazing. So, Uriah Heep live. One of the best live albums from the 70s, one of the best live albums, period, and a high watermark for Uriah Heep, a high watermark for hard rock, heavy metal, what do you want to call it back then? I won't even want to see it now. But if you are getting into Uriah Heep, and this band has made some fantastic albums through the 2010s, 2020s, the noughties, whatever. I love every period of Uriah Heep. However, you have not got a Uriah Heep collection unless Live 1973 is in it. I hope you enjoyed this overview of this classic album, and let me know what you think of this record. If you've never heard it before, talk to me as well, because what it must be like to listen to this for the first time in 2024, gosh, I am envious of your ears if that's what's going to happen. But if you've been listening to it for a long time, let me know as well what you think. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Thank you for your support. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and please like, share, and become a patron. You'll get to see all the videos before anyone else, and you'll also have an invite to the WhatsApp group and the Facebook group as well. Buy a t-shirt, and remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Keep spinning those discs, and I will see you very, very soon.